What's going on, everybody? John out here with you. It is January 9th, 2022. I want to get into some things I might have missed over the weekend. Maybe this will become a weekend segment each time, but this is going to be more tech oriented. So, I want to start off with some good news before we get into the really bad news that ended 2021 as far as tech and gaming relations. So, this is going to be first, an article here for the announcement of the PlayStation VR2 and Horizon Call of the Mountain. And then we're going to get into some of my top games of 2021, some of my experiences, and then we're going to close out with some of the lowlights of 2021 as well. But first, let's keep it positive here. So this is from Hideki Nishino, Senior Vice President of Platform Experience, talking about the VR. And let's see if I can find some things that are into it that give you some sense of depth and the features that'll be in it. So, PlayStation VR2 takes VR gaming to a whole new level, enabling a greater sense of presence and allowing players to escape into game worlds like never before. With the headset on and controllers in hand, players will feel a heightened range of sensations unlike any other, thanks to the creativity of game worlds being built by our world-class developers and the technology incorporated in the software. So, what are some of the specific specs here? Visual fidelity bullet point. For high-fidelity visual experience, PSVR2 offers 4K HDR with 110-degree field of view and foveated rendering with an OLED display. Players can expect a display resolution of 2000 to 2040 per eye, so that really is a lot of pixels, and smooth frame rates between 90 and 120 Hz. Headset controller tracking. With the inside-out tracking, which is good, so hopefully that means you don't have a bunch of cameras or stupid controllers around you. With the inside-out tracking, PSVR2 tracks you and your controller through integrated cameras embedded in the VR headset. Your movements and the direction you look at are reflected in-game without the need of an external camera. So that's really, really good news for PSVR owners. So I'm not one of the virtual reality guys, and I've heard the Oculus Quest 2 is much, much better than the PSVR, but considering when PSVR came out, it's very understandable. However, when PSVR first launched, and I saw some of the stuff at GameStop, I'm looking at it thinking, and I'm seeing the associates work with some of the customers and seeing some of the features and things that it does, and I'm thinking, holy crap, you got all these other cameras around you on top of already having this headset on there, and you really can't see anything. And you got the PlayStation 3 Move controllers, you got going like this, so obviously you look like you're performing a sex act. And then you got the things on top of it that honestly look like dildos. And you're just waving all this stuff around. You got all these other cameras around you. And it was just a big Kinect box that I saw too. Kind of like one of those Atari 2600s and things like that. These big ass boxes all around there that are daisy chained together rather than just being one box that you could use to plug into one outlet. It was all over the place. And yeah, it might have looked good at the time, and yeah, it might also be for a niche crowd, right? Because, VR isn't always going to work for anybody, or if you're like me, you have motion sickness when you're trying any of that kind of stuff, and you just be puking all over the place. Even though I really wanted to try Resident Evil 7 Biohazard VR, I couldn't do that, but this certainly seems like it would be a lot better. So let's get back into it here. New sensory features. So PSVR2 Sense technology combines eye tracking, headset feedback, 3D audio, and the innovative PSVR2 Sense controller to create an incredibly deep feeling of immersion. Headset feedback is a new sensory feature that amplifies the sensation of in-game actions from the player. It's created by a single built-in motor with vibrations that add an intelligent tactile element, bringing players closer to the gameplay experience. For example, gamers can feel characters' elevated pulse during tense moments. That could be cool. The rush of objects passing close to the character's head, or the thrust of a vehicle as the character speeds forward. Additionally, PS5's Tempest 3D audio tech makes sounds in the player's surroundings come alive, adding to this new level of immersion. So that's really cool to be able to have some of that there. So the last thing here with eye tracking, PSVR2 detects the motion of your eyes, so a simple look in a specific direction can create an additional input for the game character. This allows players to interact more intuitively in new and lifelike ways, allowing for a heightened emotional response and enhanced expression that provide a new level of realism in gaming. All these enhancements in PSVR2 combined with the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers from the DualSense controllers enable players to feel and interact with games in a much more visceral way. PSVR2 will also have a simple setup process. With a single cable connected directly to the PS5, you can immediately jump into the VR experience. Thank God. Again, let's repeat that one. PSVR2 will have a simple setup process with a single cable connected directly to the PS5. No more daisy chaining. That's the stuff that I saw before that. So that's really, really good. But that's also not to say, like I have my PS5 on ground with the stand with the 2 college books on top of it, because what else are you going to do with college books? You know, that's all they are, is paperweights now. However, what I'm saying to you is, being safely on the ground, if things tip over, no worries. Any of you other guys that have this stuff on the table or a dresser or anything else like that, you have your USB-C cable, you're out screwing around with the VR, doing this and that, and then boom, and then the console goes flying. I'm sure you're going to be seeing a lot of those videos when that comes out. So one last thing here from PlayStation. It says, today we are also pleased to reveal that one of the biggest exclusive franchises on the console will be coming to PSVR 2. Horizon Call of the Mountain from Guerrilla and Firesprite. The original game is being built specifically for VR2 and will open the doors for players to go deeper into the world of Horizon. So that's pretty cool. In the sense of that, you have to have something big to be able to launch for it. That makes a lot of sense for them to be able to do it. It makes a lot of sense for them to be able to simplify everything and make it easier. Because look, I think a lot of people that had PSVR 2, and I don't want to pigeonhole everyone, but in the sense of you played it a little bit and you tossed it to the side, but you thought it was cool at the time and you enjoyed it. You're not going to sit here and say it was a waste of money, but you didn't probably play it as much as you should have or thought about, right? So with this VR2, you have Horizon Call of the Mountain also coming out. You have a simplified design. You have a much more 4K HDR experience where you get a lot more pixels in your face with a lot more simplified design in terms of having one cord, having less things to be able to move around, not having a camera, everything else around you. That sounds a hell of a lot better. And even for entry level or something like that, let's say it's an entry level thing and it's not as costing as much down the line as everything else would be. And look, with all that stuff, it's, maybe I shouldn't say entry level, but at some point that's what it becomes, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So when PSVR launched, it was what, like $300 and $350? Like, I think it was $299 when it launched. Exactly. Do you expect VR2 with the 4K HDR, with some of the other stuff that's in there, to launch at $299? If they want to keep a competitive price point, yes, I would say that. But my main thought in terms of what the price could be and speculation and all of that, as everyone likes to do, I'll take my shot at it. I'm going to say $349. I think that's probably a fair price point. Yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but if you bundle that in with Horizon Call of the Mountain at $349, and let's say you got a game and all that stuff in there for it, I think it makes sense. If you're going to $399, I think you're going crazy land territory. $299 would be great. $349 is what I expect with the Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle, but $399 is getting a little crazy territory. Because to me, you're thinking, I got a PS5, but how many of you would say, I'm also buying a PS5 and I'm buying VR2? How many of that out of 10? Maybe 2? I mean, we'll see how that goes. I'm not poo-pooing this whole thing. I think this is a definite step up in terms of PSVR, and this is the next generation of it, and that would make a lot of sense. For one thing, I would also like to see, I know this isn't related, but a boosted PS Vita, a new model or something like that, to also go with VR and PS5 and make it a little bit more moddable, make it a little bit more fun, because the Vita really wasn't. If you're looking at the Xbox Series S or the Series X, I mean, you're pretty much paying $30-40 to go into developer mode, and you can swap in and out between emulators and ROMs and play all the old games the way that you wouldn't be able to do that if you were just a collector or didn't have a lot of money. You could do all that, swap in and out, and still be able to play online. So it would be nice if PlayStation could throw us a bone here and say, all right, we're not going to open up the PS5, but we're going to give you a competitive experience with the new PS Vita. We're going to launch it with the PSVR 2, and that would be really cool to go with the PS5. I'm hoping that's something that they would do, or are they just going to continue to be non-consumer friendly? But we will see. What are your thoughts on the PSVR2 and what I just shared from the PlayStation blog? Facebook.com/TBUGunslinger, Twitter @JohnReinott. So what were my positive gaming experiences to close out 2021? And what are my thoughts going forward in terms of what I want to look for and what I want to see? So within the PlayStation 5, as I said a lot when it launched last year in November, I said my biggest gaming experience was still the packaged-in Astro's Playroom, because I thought it did everything wonderful with the DualSense, and it just immersed you in a whole new level in terms of showing you what the PS5 could do. I loved Spider-Man Miles Morales. I loved having the Ultimate Edition to be able to play Spider-Man PS4 Enhanced and also play Miles Morales. I loved the Demon's Souls remake and some of those other games, but as we've gone along, and I gave you a couple reviews throughout the year in 2022, whether it be Resident Evil Village, which I really liked, but that wasn't one of those games that would be more than a 7-day rental to be able to get your money back, because I didn't think it'd be worth a full $75 all the way through, especially since the Resident Evil Reverse package in from Capcom that was supposed to be the Resident Evil competitive fighting format between all the Resident Evil characters, that didn't launch. That's still not available. When you have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, yeah, that looks really great on the PS5. And it's a wonderful game, and it's a good showcase for the PlayStation 5. However, it's not a very long game again, as I've said. And you're thinking about some of these other things. I'm thinking, what is a killer game that you had to have in 2022? Was it Returnal for some of you, which I didn't really care for too much? Was it Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart? Was it Resident Evil Village? It seemed like it might have slowed down a little bit in 2022. However, I do feel like going forward into it, especially because I'm going through the games for Christmas that I got for cheap. Again, that's Scarlet Nexus, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Lost Judgment, and Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. Considering all the website work and stuff that I've been doing of late, it's going to take me a little bit longer to do those games, but as I said, those will be 4 reviews that you will get in 2022, and then maybe Gran Turismo 7. Am I a little disappointed? And I'm not going to sit here and leave all the PS4 players and everything else in the dust, because you can't. And even though, like we said, next generation starts with us with Jim Ryan, that's not going to make a lot of sense, because you're not going to leave all those guys in that player base already in the dust. Am I a little disappointed that maybe Gran Turismo 7 is a complete PS5 exclusive? Yeah, probably, considering, because Forza Horizon 5 is going to do everything else it can do, and it's going to be really damn good. And maybe GT7 is going to be held back a little bit. But there's certain things that you have to understand in terms of not just being a little prissy boy bitch in terms of I want to have everything else in front of me. With COVID, with the large player base, with all the other games and stuff theoretically being pushed back 6 months to a year, and certain other things, whether it would be Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Final Fantasy 16, some of these other things like that. Things are getting pushed back, and there's changes and stuff that have to be made to be able to keep everybody happy, because let's face it, unless it's the Series S, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 are not easy consoles to find. I know a lot of you are going to sit here and say, well, you're not working hard enough to do all of that. Well, I think a lot of you guys are, and maybe a lot of you guys aren't willing to pay past MSRP, which I wouldn't either. So those are some of the kind of conventions and things that you have to be able to make, but in the grand scheme of things, as I've talked about in terms of my 2022 experiences, I'm really enjoying Scarlet Nexus. And I think that would probably still be, if they even picked it up at launch, that would be one of my favorite games of this year, probably with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, even though Scarlet Nexus would be the one I would buy, and then Rift Apart and Village would be stuff that I did with the 7-day rent to get the money back to play and review for you. So maybe if it's on the Series X side, a lot of you are going to say Halo Infinite or PC, because that's been working out really, really well for all of you. And I honestly want to get a chance to play that too. What I want to see going forward As I talked about with the LG C1, hopefully I'll be able to pick that up in February if it's on sale enough, between 800 and 900 bucks around the Super Bowl. I will pick up and get this Panasonic Viera 13-year-old plus TV replaced because I want to get that 120 hertz, the VRR 4K 120, all of that stuff. I want to get all of it, and I'd like to have it. I know between the Series X and the PS5, not all of that stuff is going to be available. Right off Jump Street, not all these games are going to run in 4K. Not everything is going to be 8K, like all the boxes are saying they're trying to sell you on. We understand that. But at the same time, I hear some people tell me that, I don't want to get the TV because, 4K stuff is going to be irrelevant when the PlayStation 5 Pro or a mid-gen refresh of the series comes out. Honestly, I don't feel like the 4K 120 is going to be in full swing until we get to PS6. That's just me. So I feel like I'll be able to hold on the TV for another 10 years, and I'd rather get a TV than spend like 500 bucks on almost a 1080p monitor when I can spend 8 to 9 and get a 4K TV and also double that as a monitor and enjoy OLED from plasma to OLED as I should. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Facebook.com/GBUGunslinger, Twitter @JohnReinot. I have to get into this Lowlights here to end 2021 as far as gaming. So this is going to be directly from, and you can also get the digital if you have the subscription for this from GameStop if you're doing this digitally or physically. I still like to get the physical magazines delivered into the mail, but this is from Game Informer issue 342 with Horizon Forbidden West on the front cover. They're talking about some of the stuff in the very beginning between page 12 and page 13 of the magazine of some of the lowlights of 2021. Now, I will not give you all the details because I don't want to get copyright stricken by YouTube or talk about some other things that are very, NC-17 rated R or whatever you want to talk about, all these other rated X details. But between Activision and Blizzard's reckoning, and this is content warning for sexual harassment and other issues that I cannot digress with some of those words in there, but let's talk about it here. These are some of the lowlights. So in July, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing announced it would be suing Activision Blizzard, the developer and publisher behind the game series like World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, kicking off what is easily the biggest story of the year in the game industry, and that's where I agree. The lawsuit alleged the company had allowed sexist, discriminatory behavior, including lower pay for women and then men and a frat boy culture, sexual harassment, and in one case victim a business trip that provoked a supervisor's action that dealt to a lot more shenanigans and real stuff. So if you're thinking like 13 Reasons Why or some of those uncomfortable movie sequences, scenes, think about that here because all that stuff went down at Activision Blizzard. The details of the lawsuit paint a devastating picture for one of the largest publishers in video games and details the sheer level of heinous behavior as its various studios. Shortly after the lawsuit was made public and detailed by Polygon, more than 2,600 current and former Activision employees sent an open letter calling for the company's response. On July 28th of 2011, walkout was organized outside Activision's Irvine, California headquarters. A subsequent report of Kotaku further detailed the behavior of World of Warcraft senior director Alex Ifabashi, named in the lawsuit, as he and other employees had taken to social media in the past to boast about their alcohol-fueled behavior at conventions. In the lawsuit, Ifabashi was said to hit on female employees, telling him he wanted to marry them, attempt to kiss them, wrapping his arms around them, and was in plain view of male employees, including supervisors, who had to intervene and pull him off female employees. That's absolutely outrageous. In response, Activision Blizzard issued a statement claiming the DFEH's suit includes disoriented and many other false descriptions of Blizzard's past. While we find this behavior to be disgraceful and unprofessional, it is unfortunately an example of how they've conducted themselves throughout the course of their investigation. Public reaction to this response predictably didn't go well, prompting Activision's CEO Bobby Kotick to issue his own statement, calling the company's response tone-deaf, saying he was sorry he did not provide the right empathy and understanding. Kotick also announced Activision hired a third-party law firm, to conduct a review of Activision Blizzard's policies and procedures. Throughout the entire ordeal, Kotick downplayed his knowledge of the issues within the company and even cut his salary to $62,500 because thinking in that respect he's got to know something's going on. The lowest amount of California's law will allow for people earning a salary, as he put it, until transformational goals were met. Per the Hollywood Reporter in 2020, Kotick's total Activision compensation for the year was $30.1 million. So that's just one of those I'm sorry things. So, however, as reported by the Wall Street Journal in November, Kotick not only knew about the behavior within Activision, but had actively hidden evidence from company shareholders and mistreated women himself. Among the slew of damaging details, Wall Street Journal's report further highlights misconduct at Activision Studios. According to the outlet, a woman working at Sledgehammer Games told HR things that happened twice that were sex-related and that were way, way worse. I'll just leave it at that. When the co-head of Treyarch, Dan Bunting, was also accused of sexual harassment, Kotick stepped in to keep him aboard, as he recommended him before to be fired, but he tried to keep him later. So Kotick alleged that he harassed a female employee and left a voicemail saying he would have her killed. Other outlets reports that employees point to two key reasons for this kind of behavior: a culture of drinking and the semi-autonomy each studio had from its parent company. So, let's see. What I want to say is that anyone who doubts my conviction to be the most welcoming, inclusive workplace doesn't really appreciate how important this is to me. Yeah, right. That was a direct quote from Kotick. As I made clear, we are moving forward with a new zero-tolerance policy. For inappropriate behavior, zero means zero. Again, Any reprehensible conduct is simply unacceptable. Following the report, the Washington Post, more than 500 Activision employees, sent an open petition asking that Kotick remove himself as CEO. More than 100 employees staged an in-person walkout. The Washington Post also reported numerous Activision shareholders penned a letter asking the company's board of directors to have Kotick step down. In late November, Wall Street Journal reported that Kotick told senior managers he would consider stepping down if he can't fix the cultures within Activision. The revelations at Activision Blizzard are the latest of examples of sexual misconduct in the gaming industry in recent years, as other companies like Ubisoft and Riot Games have also confronted similar issues. The Activision story is still ongoing, and how it shakes out remains to be seen. For full details, we encourage you to go to GameInformer.com and everything else that you can see online. So, that is a horrific story and a lowlight in 2021. And quite frankly, between all this other stuff, I'll just leave it at this. I'm not going to sit here and make the token argument that nothing's okay and this and that, because we all know that. Unless you're totally effed in the head, you all know that none of this stuff is okay. What I'm saying that may get better over time, and I'm not downplaying the story at all, but as more stories like this come out, in the darkness, into the light, hopefully going forward into these workplaces, you will find that situations like this will begin to happen less and less and less. Hopefully. That's what I'm saying, hopefully. Because between 60s and 70s and as far back as you want to go, workplace sexual harassment, denigration, and much, much, much worse have happened throughout the course of history. But the problem throughout all of that time, I truly believe a lot of this stuff has been buried in the shadow and not put into the limelight. And anyone else, between man, female, anything else, all in between, all mix, all types of business, all different types of positions, have all been put into the shadow. So when stories like this come out, as painful as they are, just like we talked about in terms of some of the things that I mentioned in some of my other shows, sports related, with the Chicago Blackhawks investigation in 2021, and Kyle Beach, and some of the stuff that was going on between Stan Bowman and everything else in the Chicago Blackhawks, much similar to this kind of story in terms of that, not only between, that was men, this is women. Hopefully more stories like this will come to the limelight so things like this will never happen again, or will start to happen less likely until they never happen again. Because quite honestly, this stuff should never happen for anyone, of any kind of creed, sex, religion, all of that. Everything when you go to work should be able to have a complete, fair workplace where you're not worried about certain things, you're not worried about losing your job, you're not worried about having to do certain things to be able to keep your job. all the stuff, workplace safety, all of that should be the highest paramount. But again, like I'm saying to you, when stories like this ultimately come out, the good that I hope that comes out of it is when enough of these things come to the limelight, when enough of these things hit court cases, when enough of these things make enough change, and maybe this is me being a little bit naive and disingenuous, but I can only hope that when enough of this stuff hits the limelight and makes enough change, that's when we can finally get to the point where situations as horrendous as this can happen less and less and less, and the workplace environment can be safe for everybody. That's all I can hope. I'm not trying to sit here and stay on a soapbox and talk about things happen, more likely for some and less likely for some, because some of you sick bastards out there will say things like that. I'm not taking that route. I'm just hoping that stories like this, and stories like this with the Chicago Blackhawks investigation, as we've talked about, and the sports-related aspect of it, when these hit the limelight, hopefully stories like this that are as horrible as they are will happen less and less. And workplace safety can be something that we can all have and strive for, and it can be a safe environment for everybody, and harassment and things like that will take less and less of a priority for people. Because, man, I got to tell you, in all honesty, people are just sick in the head. When they have positions of power, boy, do they like to exploit it. And that's just been going on throughout the history of everything else as we know. And I can only hope that things will continue to get better. So, to reiterate, we talked about the PSVR2, some of the other stuff that's gone along in terms of gaming and things I might have missed over the weekend. We've talked about some of my gaming highlights of 2021, and we've talked about this horrific story and some of these other terms of harassment, things that have gone on. So, in terms of what I might have missed over the weekend, maybe I can make that a little bit more of a segment as far as we talk about gaming, technology, other things like that that might have been too short of a story to be able to make a video. So when we come back in from the break for tonight, I will have another Red Wings game story as they're taking on the Anaheim Ducks a little bit later tonight. And then tomorrow we will do full coverage of Alabama, Georgia, and hopefully that will be a little bit more of a game. As far as lines and everything else we'll get to, I will be honest with you, I've started the website and everything else late to start 2022. So if it's going to be Lions stuff, it's probably going to be more off-season. And then when we get into the 2022 football season going into 2023, that's when we'll kind of do more of a deep dive into the NFL and things like that, because I feel it's totally unfair for me to give all these other points late and then give you some more point spread and things like that and kind of have a little bit of fun with it and give you some things. Because look, I'm not very smart as far as all of that, but it pays to have fun a little bit in terms of a lot of different subjects and try to drive in as much content that I can, so hopefully I can try to engage somebody and have a good time with all of this stuff that we end up working on. And I'm always looking for collaborators, I'm always looking for content. As I mentioned, I can't pay for all of it, but I can in turn provide other content for you on other sites, and hopefully we can do a just wonderful content creation and sharing and have a good time and maybe appear and do some other broadcast stuff, because I'm always looking for collaborators, but it's always hard to pay when you don't have any money. But this is going to be John Ott signing off for January 9th, 2022. I hope all of you guys are safe and well. We will talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.